Well,
Yeah.
the old ones, they didn't have cement, they just had rings. So
Oh, yeah. No, my old one on Calpella Street, that was a 42-foot hand dug well.
yeah,
And you could see all the way to the bottom when you ran out of water.
Yeah.
But it rained 2 inches and it's filling up with water. So, it was probably
Yeah,
not
I think the
the best
center's
water
set for like
form.
70 gallons. So when my calculator says when the 70 gallons comes in, it pumps out. So at one point it was only pumping every hour and a half, so that's about all I was getting. But
all
now
right,
it's fine.
who else do we expect coming in? Ryan,
Jim Sullivan,
Jim Sullivan,
and Sam. So
Sam?
I haven't heard from Sam that he's coming or not coming, but I had an email from him earlier in the week regarding an article, so I think he's coming.
We'll wait a few more minutes.
I can run across the street and throw some rocks at Jim's window and see if he responds. Well, I must say, my section of town is well represented here. We got 3 people on Hills Road.
Great. There's Jim.
Thank you.
There he is.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Ed.
So we'll see if Sam comes in, he can come in.
And we have one guest. I don't know if our guest cares to identify themselves or not.
I guess not.
That would be you.
Well,
I think I see a name, Katie.
No, Katie
I'm
is our,
sorry. Yeah, so hi, my name's Katie Bates and I'm the new district secretary.
Oh,
Welcome aboard.
Nice to meet all of
talk to
you.
you on the
Hello,
phone.
hello.
Hi, how are you? Excellent.
Thank you.
you see,
Yes. Hi, Katie. I'll be calling you tomorrow about something.
Okay, I should be there.
Okay.
Okay, then we only have one other person is
Sam is the one missing. Yeah.
Sam's missing. Okay, then we will open up the meeting and we'll assume people will come in as they can. Approval of agenda.
So you're calling the meeting to order here at 4:03?
Yep. Okay, then we'll go on to public comment for non-agenda items. Anybody?
Nope.
Okay, approval of minutes. These go back to the Nixon administration. October 6th, 2020. Did anybody find any problems with that one?
I did not, and I'm willing to make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay, do we have anybody want to vote for it? All in favor, aye.
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 Next, we have 11/10/20.
I was not at that one, so I am not making a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
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 12/1/20.
I'll make a motion to approve 12/1/20 minutes.
Okay, I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so the next one is 1/5/21. And this is the one that is the, probably has the most information on it because it really is down to the different things that we actually were talking about, which was part of, also part of the letter. So any changes or concerns about how that one came out?
No, I have none.
Okay,
So I would move to accept those minutes as well.
I'll second that.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so then we're on to, you know what I didn't see? Communications. Don't we usually have communications?
We haven't received any communications
You didn't. Did
related.
anybody else?
I just have a client of mine who has a place and has had something happening there, and probably Donna is aware of it, and that's why I was going to call you, Katie, just trying to represent them at the Red House Greenhouse, but I don't know if this is the time to mention that or not.
Fine with me.
What's that?
It's fine with me.
Oh, okay. I was going to mention at the meeting just because it is groundwater management, and it's for those of you who don't know, it's one of those parcels that has 4 parcels on one well. And I remember, Ed, when you and I were on the board, I did not like the presentation by the partners of Red House Greenhouse to do that.
Right.
But it was approved at all levels, and so they got it. So my friends Stan and Cheryl Clemenson have the yellow house, the spec house that was built next to Red House Greenhouse toward the post office. And then there's the 4th parcel is the blank parcel.
Right.
Okay, so there's the greenhouse parcel that they developed 2 buildings on Calpella Street, the Red House with the little tiny place in the back, Stan and Cheryl's, and then the last place.
Right.
And so my friend notified me and asked me if I could just follow through because he's in Montana. They only live in the house about 6 or 8 weeks a year. But he got a notification that the groundwater was, or the water was, had bacteria in it. So, and I think that Donna, you went and tested that. Am I correct? I don't mean to bring you in on this.
Twice. I tested it twice. And I just tested it again today, which I don't have the results back yet.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
he had Jamie come out and chlorinate everything and figured out where the problem was. And I think it's going to get remedied.
Yeah. Okay.
He's pretty active on it.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. And I need to talk with, so I can talk to Jamie too, to find out what's come of that. I was also going to call Barry because he seems to be the lead person about it.
Yeah.
But, you know, my friends were kind of frustrated because they feel like, you know, the main water use is these other 2 parcels, one of which apparently got approval to build a whole nother house on it, on the Red House property.
Yes.
So, you know, there's two parcels that have a huge amount of water use, another one that has very little, and a 4th one that who knows what's going to happen to it. And I don't know that the well substantiated that much in the beginning. So I'm kind of curious about that. But it brings it back to, so my friends are concerned that that the bacteria is because it was over pumped. So I don't really see how that would be, but he's frustrated because the actual well is on their property and Barry wanted to build this structure over the well. And what they would like to do at some point is perhaps build something on that part of the property because it's you know, it's zone mixed use. And so he's thinking of doing something there and he would be covering that well up with a building if he does something. So anyway, there's a little bit of tension there, which I have to work through. But the reason it segues into this meeting is that here's a parcel that has a shared well with 4 places on it. And now apparently the new house going on it will trigger it to be a small system that then has to be monitored more closely. And
Likely.
I so wish that we didn't have things like this in town, and I would love to see it not be repeated.
I agree. It also becomes something of there's no one person in charge.
Yeah.
Gary's been taking the lead on this and following up on everything that needed to be done. So
Right.
it's not like nothing is happening.
Yeah. But, you know, the bad thing about that is Barry's now, so he sold off 2 of the part. I mean, he's only involved in the 1 parcel now, the greenhouse. And I believe that's on the market. And if he sells it, then he leaves as the lead person. And the whole thing is kind of nebulous as to, I mean, I guess they
form an organ, you know, they need to all band together, put money in and, if it becomes a county system, then they're gonna have to pay some money to have it monitored and,
Right, and I would have hoped that up until, up before this point right now, that they would have more of a structure together for that. So I don't know if they do or not, and I'm trying to find all that out. So I will talk to Barry and Jamie and, just kind of see what's happening here.
yeah.
I
Okay.
think that,
So there's a house being built on one of the properties. Where is that in the approval process? Is it done? 'Cause
I don't know, but my friend Stan said that it was, I believe it was approved, that they are going to build a house there.
Hmm.
And then
That's-
yeah, and
I'm on the historic review board and I'm trying to think which one that was. That's why I'm asking.
well, it's on Calpella Street.
yeah,
But in any case, the next step then is there's a blank piece of property closest, right across street from the post office. And the person who last purchased that went before the review board and I think planning and stuff. I don't know where they went with it, but they had 2 or 3 structures on that.
yes, too.
They had a
Yeah,
huge amount of building.
right.
And I don't know what that allotment is, so it's
It's theoretically, it's 25% of what the total was. Each parcel was supposed to get the same amount.
okay.
And each parcel, it came out to that they were supposed to get a residential and a commercial in order to break that up. But it sure looks like the Red House is coming up with a commercial that is also a residential, and then a residential and a residential.
Right,
back.
well,
So,
and the greenhouse has what, 2, 3 residences and a commercial on Calpella Street, and then the commercial on Ukiah Street.
right.
So,
Right.
and I think, and I'm gonna investigate it more, but I think it's kind of like the Colorado River. I think it's been over allocated. I can't imagine, I mean, Stan said his allotment was 300 gallons a day for his parcel. So if all 4 of those are 300 gallons a day, that means that the greenhouse property that was the real estate, and then 3 residences and another business are all under 300 gallons a day. I mean, I can't believe they're all coming in on that. So,
Well, businesses that just have a bathroom, they don't use much water.
No.
right, but so that on that greenhouse parcel, there's 2 businesses and 3 residences. I don't know how many bedrooms are in each one, but say they're each 1 bedroom, 3 apartments. There's one above the place on Calpella Street, the standalone building, which I believe is an upstairs, downstairs.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I was going to ask you about, Katie. But if you don't have all the answers, I know you just got here and I don't want to give you a problem from the beginning, but I would love to get as much information as I can on that thing from you.
Okay, I think what we're gonna have to do though is have this be part of the parcel that we send on to the board of directors as a kind of a cautionary. When you have one well that is tested 20 years ago, and can it support all of these different uses? And don't forget, all of these uses are not what you might call above boards. It's a fact. It's a fact. So what was at one time has morphed over to something else, and that's just not something we can really deal with. But I think that the general topic of multiple parcels with one well becoming a problem, and we should basically just mention that should be looked at by the board of directors.
Yeah.
Right,
Any
but
thoughts on that?
you're talking about 4 parcels at 300 each. So
Yeah.
we're still talking about less than a gallon a minute.
Yes.
So that's not, I don't know what that well came in at, but that's not unheard of with that kind of a deep well.
Oh, no, oh, no. They
I
came
don't
in
think
with a
it's gonna-
very good producing well. I remember it well. But the point is that I think that the 300 allotment, basically that's a house and a shop. It's hard to pull that into 2 two residences. You know, it doesn't cut very well. But I didn't do the math. I think the district will do the math and make sure that it's all on the up and up. I think our job is to recognize an issue and pass it on.
Okay.
And I think that's what we're going to do.
Out of curiosity, I don't know the red house, greenhouse. So if somebody knows the number of the plot that they're going to build on that's approved, I'd appreciate knowing that, just so I can circle back through. I mean, the historical review board doesn't do anything with water; it comes out of the planning. But I just am curious.
Right.
So I just, Jan or whoever can tell me the number of the house. I can go back and look through what I've got. Oh.
Yeah, I'll be happy to give you the number when I walk by tomorrow.
Yeah,
I walk down into town every day. It's like,
I know.
oh,
I see
seem
you.
to be doing these days.
So the open parcel though, opens towards Capella.
No, the open parcel is the right across from the
Post office.
post office. So it goes from Ukiah Street
Right.
to Calpella Street. And it
Right.
basically, the four parcels are those four parcels, and then you get to Lansing Street. So you've got the Savings Bank, and you've got
Right.
the what I
Greenhouse.
call Sally Mack building. It's not Sally Mack anymore. Brings
Oh.
Bakery, you know, it's not that either. It's
Yeah.
now tangents and residences and stuff. But, you know, so it's those four parcels.
Okay.
So I'm interested in the one that's got approval to build on. That's the one I'm interested in. So.
Yeah, well, that's the one that has the Edward Jones across from, yeah, so I'll find out the address on,
Yeah, I'm not. It's easier for me to do that. Thanks, yeah.
yeah, oh, okay.
I think I have a number. If it's, should be close to what you're looking at. It's 119. The one with Edward Jones is 119-23009. And the one next further west is 08, which is the one opposite the post office.
Those are parcel numbers or
Yeah, those are parcel numbers.
numbers? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Well, I can
number
probably
one.
find it from that.
So it's behind the Edward Jones house then that they're going to be
Correct.
building.
Right.
And
right
there's
now,
like there used to be like a shoe shop or something back on Capella.
it was,
The
Yeah.
east.
Okay.
yeah, that's on Calpella Street, and that's actually Matt O'Halloran's little office building right now. So they're gonna build a house between that and the yellow house on the next parcel.
Hmm.
And also on that red parcel is a building that it's a laundry building. It has washer and dryer, and it's available for everybody on all the parcels to use.
Wow.
My neighbors who have a single family home with a laundry room in it said they've got the key, they can use it. So it's being used by all the residences there, which as far as I can figure is 4.
Hmm.
So I personally, I find it difficult to believe that right now, on all the use that's on 3 out of 4 parcels, that they're using less than 900 gallons a day.
Yeah.
Well, they're
And
reporting it to Ryan. Ryan should know.
but also there's nobody on one parcel, and the other parcel, like I said, they might use a couple thousand gallons a year because that's all they're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
the lawyer's office, that's not included on there. That
there
well.
is a lawyer's office downstairs, a residence above, and that's the last place before you hit Sally Max.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's on the greenhouse property.
That's the greenhouse. Okay.
I mean, for the longest time, there was an old dilapidated greenhouse and an old dilapidated red house and a field. And then they developed that and redivided up into 4, did the well, and it went from there. So,
Wow.
and to me, it's just really unfortunate that they didn't at least do 2 wells on the property.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, the interesting thing is that if at any time they don't keep up with their needs, they can put in another well. They'll
yes.
just have to work it out themselves as to how they do it and all this, but they still have to stay within that allotment. So unless they want to do another hydro study.
Well, though, wouldn't a new well have to go through the whole process of a hydro study since it's not in the same location?
I would imagine so.
Yeah. So they'd have to do a new hydro study. Yeah.
I
I
don't
don't
think
know about-
anybody's going to do that.
That's not what we're supposed to be talking about.
What's that?
I think that, well, if your well goes bad, you have
Right.
an existing use on your property,
Yeah,
to no fault of your own, but an earthquake or something like this, you have the right to improve your well without doing a hydro study. You simply have to stay within your allotment. That's my understanding of it. But that could be pushed up to the board of directors also. I'm perfectly happy with sending a lot of this stuff to the board of directors.
yeah. Hey, Donna, just one more thing before we leave this one. If they do become basically a public water system, in California, do they have to go through the step of proving that they have the capacity to provide the services that they like, capacity development, before they can get that approval?
Well, they're going to be a county small system, and I'm not sure if the county requires that. I know what kind of testing they require, but
Yeah,
I haven't seen them require a pump test, so
okay,
I don't know.
okay. But quality
Okay.
would be part of it.
Right.
Okay, then we will send that on to the board of directors for their consideration. And so the next one on our, actually, the first thing on ours is the new business, this discussion of ideas relating to groundwater management. And for this, I would like to start off by asking Ryan to review the letter that he has sent to us, and it will go to the newspaper. Because I think this is also a reminder of some of the things that we have been talking about. Go ahead, Ryan, if you will.
Okay, so I haven't actually sent this letter out to all the committee members. I sent it to you, Ed, as the board president.
Oh, good.
But I wrote a press release for the Beacon, just to remind the community and the public that we've created this committee, what the purpose of this committee is, what some of the things we've talked about are, and to continue to invite people to participate. Let people know we're here when we meet, and if you have any questions, concerns, ideas, proposals about groundwater management, to please come and share them. So if you like, I'm happy to read the press release. It hasn't been published yet. It's really still in draft form, but would you like me to read it, Ed?
Yes, please.
Okay. 2021 has the makings of another major drought year. With just 51% of normal rainfall last year, groundwater management and conservation are more important than ever. In 2020, the Mendocino City Community Services District readopted their groundwater management program, which included the groundwater shortage contingency plan, the groundwater extraction permit ordinance 2020-01, and groundwater shortage contingency plan ordinance 2020-02. To address concerns raised by a few community members, the MCCSD board formed a groundwater management advisory committee. This committee consists of 7 to 11 members and a maximum of 2 board members. In forming the committee, each board member at the time was provided the opportunity to appoint 2 interested community members to the committee. The intention of this committee is to review the groundwater management programs, specifically the groundwater extraction permit ordinance, the groundwater shortage contingency plan, and the groundwater shortage contingency plan ordinance. Including input from the public, and provide a set of recommendations to the MCCSD Board of Directors for future consideration to improve upon the groundwater management program. The committee has been meeting since August of 2020. Committee meetings have generally been held the first Tuesday of each month at 4 p.m. via Zoom. Agendas and login information are posted on the mccsd.com webpage. Each month, the district superintendent asks for ideas, encourages committee members to talk with their neighbors, friends, business owners, and stakeholders. They're encouraged to invite people to participate. We want to hear the concerns with the current program and the ideas and proposals to make things better for the district as a whole. The committee has so far discussed ways to try and reduce costs associated with hydrological studies, benefits and concerns with multiple parcels sharing a common well, creating community storage systems like ponds, cisterns, neighborhood storage tanks, change in use permits that should possibly trigger a hydrological study, the use of graduate students in university programs to potentially lower the costs of studies, allowing for increased water extraction during the winter to save for drier summer months, hydrology and geology of the MCCSD to increase the basic scientific understanding of how water flows through the district, discussion on rainwater catchment systems, benefits and risks with neighbors sharing water, increased individual storage, pros and cons, discussions of out of compliance district members and ways to bring them into compliance, discussion on the history of the district, the idea of a community water system, the failed search for a sustainable water source back in the 1990s, and SGMA, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act adopted by the state legislature in 2014. As fewer topics for discussion are being initiated, the committee is getting ready to wrap it up and make final recommendations to the MCCSD Board of Directors. There is still time for public participation. We want to hear from you. Those with an interest in groundwater management programs of MCCSD, concerns, appreciation, ideas for improvement are invited to share with this group. All of these committee meetings are and have been open to the public. You can email your topics for discussion ahead of time. We welcome your ideas and your participation. And then signed by me.
Any comments on that? Okay, I want to say I appreciate that. I think this is a very good thing to send out to the community. We should probably also put it on our webpage or something like that, because some people don't read newspapers. Why, I don't know. Anything that should be added to that, I think that gives people an idea of what we were talking about and gives them an idea about what we're going to be sending on to the Board of Directors. And I would like to use that as basically what we have been. To me, it's a roundup. None of these are really new. They're looking at things from different angles for a few times. And I think that I would like to start passing these on because the Board of Directors are going to have to more or less start all over again for their discussion of these. And so I'll start with the first one. And the first one we're talking about is the hydrological studies were so expensive. And I think the flavor I got from the committee was that we would like to see if the board could come up with something that would be less expensive for both businesses and residents. And we did come up with the possibility of using graduate students in university programs to potentially lower the cost of studies. Did anybody have any other things that they wanted to send as possible solutions to this particular problem, the cost? Okay, then we will send on that one's basic, well, we will state the problem, that it's a problem to our neighbors to have it so expensive. And the only solution that we came up with is to see if we could tie into some graduate student program or something like this. So we'll pass that along. We just talked about the common community storage problem, which kind of also ties in with another one, which he was talking about the, sorry, I lost it here. Nothing.
Is that the benefits and concerns with multiple parcels sharing a common well?
Thank you. Yes. Yes. And I didn't even do benefits. I crossed out benefits and said concerns. So I think that is exactly what Jovan was talking about. And we've mentioned it a couple of times. And there's nothing more that we can really say about it. It has the potential for problems. And is that a good thing to do or not? And that's up to, it seems like to me, it's up to the board of directors. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah,
Jim, we're really dumping on you guys, aren't we? Yes.
That's okay. Christine and I are up for it.
I don't know if they
Yeah,
can hear
it seems
me.
like those are the kinds of things that we really do want to make sure that
Let's see.
they are concerns. I mean, they are concerns.
There's a microphone. It just says mute, but it must be on.
yeah, we were created to advise, so we're advising you of the biggest headaches you're gonna have as far as groundwater management.
I don't mean to cross it out on it. It could be a benefit also. It could be a benefit because it's less wells to monitor, less wells to do. So we will put up that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of discussion about how you structure such an agreement is really isn't that the nub of the problem? And maybe that's something the board's got to address, is whether they want to get in the middle of that between people who are sharing a well, or whether they want them to make their own. But it seems that the benefits and the downside come when there isn't really a clear understanding of how it's going to work. I mean, and so that's
Right.
really what the problem is that we're pushing back on and saying, we don't have recommendation, but either you're going to live with that or somebody's got to actually put a structure in place. So I think that's kind of where we ended up, wasn't it?
Well, that and it's like how Jovan stated it at the very beginning. He had concerns a long time ago, and maybe had the board at that time addressed that as a potential problem, these people wouldn't be having a problem now or feeling like they have a problem. So yeah, let's they will have our minutes also, so they will be able to look back at our minutes and recognize where we were coming from and what our concerns were.
Yeah, and a lot of that, kind of goes back to, whose jurisdiction is it? Is it, the county, since in that case, it's going to be a small system potentially, and it's a public health type of thing. And then, the other portion of it is, do they have the quantity, and are they going to affect their neighbors? And, that's where it starts coming back to MCCSD, So, it's you have to draw your lines as far as who has, the jurisdiction. So I think that's kind of the guide. But yeah, the board would be where that would be ferreted out.
Is it worth in whatever we write back to them as we finalize, saying here are one or two or whatever examples of issues or benefits that we've seen, just to underline
that
rather than having troll through the minutes, but actually specifically say, this is something we came across, because we have. I mean, you just got a good description of a problem. So
it definitely helped the discussion, I think.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, excuse me, that when it was approved, they had done a hydrological study for a piece of property that was a single piece that they were wanting to divide. And I believe that they got their hydrological report and they used the good amount as justification for what they could build out to.
Yeah.
So our whole structure is different now, that when it's okayed, it falls within the guidelines. And so, there's so much nebulous stuff out there. All this building is happening after the hydrological study even happened. And it's like, oh, well, the well can support this, so we should just say yes. And oh, the well can support this, we should just say yes. Where if someone came with that well and hydro study and they wanted to do a project and it was, one thing and it was approved, then that's it. And they might come back and want to add to it under current and present use. But again, I can't remember exactly how it is, but or it was done. But I believe that the board really looked at it as a single project and then the owners, which at the time was just the group that owns the last parcel now, or the green parcel. I don't know what structure they have amongst themselves, and I hope it's a good agreement, because I could just see it being a real problem between the differing property owners now. And I see how it could become a problem. And on that one, if I was on the board, I think I would want to keep it as a single thing that they're dealing with versus 4 separate, that, those 4 separate, let them fight it out amongst themselves. Don't try and get in and get too involved with separating the sides.
No, no.
But in any case, I think it grew a lot because of the way it was done, the time it was done. And I'm really amazingly surprised that the county would have approved another building on that, with as convoluted as the whole water thing is. It just, to me, I don't see it, especially because there's a whole 4th parcel that, are they going to be able to approve 2?
Okay, but
structures?
Jovan, they
Yep.
did approve a certain number of gallons, and then it's how they use it up. If they want to split it up into 4 or into one big building, it basically comes down to, they still have to stay within that amount. Now,
Yes.
I totally understand what you're talking about, is that if there's individual owners versus one owner of a very large building, but that's not for I don't see the board coming into that. They basically
I
have one-
agree.
Yeah.
No.
Did
Yeah,
they
that's
stay
what I'm
with-
saying, is I don't think the board should get involved in that. But my fear is that when all 4 of them are built out, I think they're using the amount of water they're staying under the allotment now, but they're not totally built out. And I think when everything's built out, they're going to go over, and they're constantly going to be going over, and they're going to be fighting with each other on
Yep.
whose fault it is. And I think they have separate meters for each parcel, so whatever.
I think
But
they do.
the whole bottom line, and I'm sorry I brought it up in a way because it's so convoluted, but the thing that I'm taking away for it, or wanting the board to take away from it, is that it's a difficult situation, and I wouldn't encourage the board to approve any multiple use on a single well thing, unless something is presented with a lot of paperwork for the separate parcels and stuff set up so that they wouldn't get involved in any potential problems between the
Yeah.
property owners.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that this is not the only one that's like that. Just down the street, on the corner of Caston and Ukiah. That was brought to our attention also.
Right.
They have a shared well between the Beacon building and that. So
Right.
I think it basically is acceptable for our job to bring up this as an issue and to kind of raise a red flag on it. And I think we've done that, and let them decide what they're going to do with it. Because I think it's, some of them it's already done. There's nothing you're going to do, but it might come up again and again and again. So let's.
Yeah, and it really does come down to public health again. You're Jovan, you're saying that they were having bacterial problems, with that well, or who knows how that's happening. And is there backflow prevention between the parcels, and all those kind of things. So that's something the district MCCSD wouldn't want to get into outside of their purview. But again, that's, county health would be another avenue that would have to be looking at these things. So, I think as the board, I'm going to be promoting that we push back on certain things like that, that we don't get involved. But again, the quantity is where we're more concerned about.
Right.
And quality would be more county health department.
Yeah, we do. As a district board, you just want them to stay within their allotments, because you're managing allotments. That's
Right.
That's where the
And
fairness
we're-
issue comes in.
We're concerned about the water quality, but that's not what we can do, really. So,
So we're really back to, I mean, here's something that he's looking at. Here are potential problems. Here are problems we think the board should deal with. Here are problems they might get dragged into, but maybe they shouldn't. So that seems to be like the recommendation that we would put together between us, I think.
and if
Just
there's
the one or two problems, I mean, just because it may not happen again, it's happened, and who knows
Right.
what the future may bring, right? It's an illustration more than a kind of specific issue.
Right, and exposing that weak link would also be to our benefit too. So, going through that process, maybe we'll see, oh, well, we need to start pulling in county health department a little quicker than, after the fact kind of a thing. So.
Well, can I ask how, Ed, Jovan, and Ryan might have the answer to this. How many cases are there where there's multiple parcel sharing wells? Are there a few or a lot?
There's not a lot.
Not a
There's
lot.
not a lot.
Didn't
I
think
know
of
what
at least
happens
three.
a lot of times. There was one owner of 3 parcels. And so they got their approval for a split by saying, well, there's plenty of water on this one. I'll just make an arrangement on paper so that this one gets X number of gallons per whatever. And so, so there are some on there. Sometimes it was simply an old well that was already there, and somebody else built next to it. So it's just, but there aren't too many. It's the same reason there aren't too many places where sewer lines go across other people's property. They do happen. It's not necessarily good because people change, properties change, attitudes change. And so perfect is that everybody has their own, and that everybody has gravity flow from their property straight to the sewer lines. But
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can I be heard?
Yes, you can.
Okay, my name is Steve Gomes. I didn't know if my system is working. I've been, of course, watching here. I'm just want to just put my experience into what is called a minor subdivision for parcels of I believe it's up to 5 now, but a well that is shared by 4 parcels is considered a private well, just as if it was serving 1 parcel. You have to go to more than 4 parcels. The Division of Land Regulations usually requires a half a gallon per minute per single family dwelling use as the minimum amount allowable for that hydro analysis. Now, the district, of course, has stepped in and had these allotments. A half gallon a minute's about 740 gallons a day, which is not a lot of water. And you're supposed to have a 2,500 gallon storage tank on each site. And that's recommended by CAL FIRE, I think. And also it's part of the requirements for on-site water per parcel. And so, you really are getting into a deal where these private owners, if they're talking about their water quality and stuff, they'll have to deal with it on site-specific use. And it's, where does bacteria come from? It could come from just groundwater or, itself, the ground back surrounding it, as long as it's a current well that has a seal on it. If you have unsealed wells like we have all over the place, mine's an unsealed well, it certainly has bacteria in it. But as far as the district goes, it really is a health department issue. And it's also beyond the authority, I think, of the district to talk about land subdivision, because that wasn't part of that memorandum of understanding of 1990. So, I mean, I just am looking at this meeting here. I didn't hear whether or not you have, as a group, looked at the 1985 Department of Water Resources study for the Mendocino Headlands Aquifer. And you really need to do that. That's the bedrock study. It came after the 1982 study. It was the general coastal study. And then they specifically studied the Mendocino Headlands Aquifer in 1985. Extensive pumping. They searched the town for water use. And, you know, they did discover things like an 8 gallon per minute well was really 3/4 of a gallon per minute. You know, the water was stored in the well itself and not coming from the aquifer. So anyway, I really suggest you start with that because it really is the study. I don't know what any of these recent studies really have accomplished. I mean, the geology has been out there for 100,000 years. The water goes down there. If you get rainfall, you have water. If you don't get rainfall, you don't have water. And you can't really share any water from a dry well. So up here on the hill where I'm at, I know for sure there's 4 dry wells. Mine was as close to the bottom as I could have ever known. And at times I was sucking a little air with my pump. So you can't really do allotments and have a program to help when you just don't have rainfall. And this is a reoccurring thing all the way back to 1900s. I mean, you can see it. We're kind of in a phase that looks like 1920 to 1930s. And then after that, of course, if you look at the pattern, we had more rain. So will that repeat? Maybe. But durable water supply is probably not available down there on that headlands. It's very elusive cracks and rocks basically that supply most of the deeper wells that are beyond the hand dug area of like 25 feet maybe. So anyway, I'd like to see if you guys think you might want to take a look at that 1985 study.
I think good suggestion.
Just to add to that, the 1985 study was used in the initial phases of development of the groundwater model that was done back in the early 90s. The difference between the 85 and then subsequent to that was that right about 1985 was when groundwater modeling kind of evolved into kind of more modern era. I think it was Cuesta back in the day that did the hydro study. And they used what was becoming the industry standard of mod flow. And so they took that information that was in, that 1985 study, which did have, a survey of all the well logs and geology of the area, and then applied, more science to that information to develop that hydrologic view of what the Mendocino area is. So it's more of a building upon that they've done to come to where we are at today. So it has been used.
Can I make comments on that?
Please do.
Sure. Yeah, right now I'm in my hands here. I'll hold it up. You can kind of see it maybe. Okay, so this is the 2008 model update from Kennedy and Jenks. I've talked to actually Mr. Maley directly about this. And if you take one of these modeling, this is monitor well 25, wherever that is, and monitor the mod flows results, the measured water levels do not correspond close enough with the actual measure, with the computer model. Okay, there's been a real problem for this. in all of these studies, they've tried to kind of backflow the information to see if this, if they can understand the operations of this area. So, you know, since the water runs off of this rock plateau so fast, I think that may be the error, but we're talking about 4 or 5 feet in elevation per in the driest times in the air in these things. And they say, well, they approximate what's going on, that's good enough. But reality is, if you take a good look at these, they're off by multiple feet. And you know, my well only has 5 feet of water in it. So if you're off of 5 feet, I'm not understanding where the computer model is going to predict why we have a crisis, and the actual water measurements.
And the reason that we get that information and we gather that information is Mike Maley takes that and then he does what is called calibration of the model, and that 4-foot difference then is corrected by some of the parameters that we have, you know, as input parameters for that model. And so as time goes on and we have more information, that model becomes more robust. And so that currently Mike is going through that process, you know, with the information that Ryan has provided, that, you know, he's running the model again and then using that information that you've shown us to calibrate and provide a better model than what we had before.
Okay, but do you really, does the committee, have they taken up the idea, is there really a durable water supply on the Mendocino Headlands Aquifer? I mean, I've looked at these studies myself all the way back to 2002, and it doesn't address durability. There's still dry wells. We have individuals right now, and we've had these programs for 30 years about, and there's dry wells. We have people in the town that have no water. So how do you remedy that? That has to be remedied.
Well, the remedy is very expensive. And so in the meantime, while we're trying to get to that remedy, I think that the efforts that we're trying to do by conservation is that, you know, gap.
Okay, so the remedy is a municipal water system? Is that what you're referring to?
A perfect remedy?
Yeah.
A
Well, I
perfect
don't know about
remedy?
perfect, but-
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, okay, so I have purchased, of course, you are probably well aware of it, that you have a 1996 design for a municipal water system that had a certified source of water by Lawrence and Associates that can supply the town. I realize it was 12 million or something. But in the history of this, did the board of directors take a vote, or did they go to the people and say, look, shall we go to the state and see if we can get financing? Because, you know, Mendocino is a national monument of and a state recognized historical area, and I think it also deserves better fire protection water.
Yep.
I don't think that municipal system is going to cause some kind of growth pattern here that's going to change the town itself at all. I mean, you know, I do believe there could be a few more, in my opinion, reproduction buildings built down in town that may reflect what used to be there 100 years, 150 years ago. But the idea that this system has been hidden, and I think we need to talk about that. You know, I talked to Ted Williams and he says there's funds available. And I think that water, excess water, even excess sewer was looked upon as growth inducing and would destroy the character of the town of Mendocino. I don't think anybody wants that. And I don't see an economic desire for outside investors or people to come in here and make this into, as I've seen quoted, Santa Cruz.
Mr. Gomes, what was the source of the water? I got confused on which study was which study. Which sources you're talking about?
Okay, well, stand by, let me get the right.
Yeah, because I'm confused.
Okay, so I'm gonna hold this up. I don't know if you can see it.
I can see.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan knows this. I did receive these from him. This is the, okay, this is about the water supply cost and feasibility study. But to begin with, I mean, it says in here that the MCCSD retained Lawrence and Associates in 1991 to investigate the feasibility of developing adequate supplies from surface waters diversion from the 5 tributary gulches and Big River.
Oh, the gulches.
And so
that was our
I
water
actually
source.
went up there to find the gulches.
Yes.
And there's some large springs that come out of there. And my
The
personal
largest
thing,
one is called Dry Gulch.
well, it's called Dry Dock Gulch.
Dry Dock Gulch.
Yeah, and the
Right.
dry dock, I think they were servicing the equipment
Right,
from the old
right.
mill, maybe.
I remember which one.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
sure you're familiar with this, but it did say that they have found in the water supply alternatives section of this report. And this is definitely where the part of the $300,000 was spent.
Yes.
And it says right here that extensive hydrological investigations have been completed by Lawrence and Associates, which substantiates that the gulches can provide adequate water to meet the present and future needs of Mendocino. Facilities to collect, pump, deliver water for treatment facilities prior to distribution to customers in Mendocino constitutes the physical features associated with the gulch diversion alternative. But I mean, they flatly state that they have found and it is a viable certified water supply for the town.
Yes.
And I understand money, but damage. One friend of mine has spent $36,000 on his own well stuff,
Yes.
system tanks and stuff. That is far less than what it would cost to say pay for a water service.
Right.
Which I think that if we don't decide to do this today, someday in the future it'll be decided. Because
yes, I agree.
Yeah, and so I think that the board needs to pursue this as the primary method mission, because I filed a lawsuit and I've been to lawsuit. I don't think you guys are privy to that case, and the problem with the ordinances are deep. There's private property issues, and I think nobody wants to go back to court, but we can't.
Okay, but before you go on to that, let me tell you, because I was there and I did involve a lot of my time and energy. And
Sure.
What we found out from that study was that water is what drains the pygmy. All of the houses that have septic systems in the pygmy in that entire area go into that water. So that is not tears from God. That's not pure water. Okay, that's one thing. The other one is, if you're concerned about somebody who just spent $36,000 getting his well, he is not in a really good place to go and say, oh, sure, I'll buy into a water system for all my neighbors that don't have water. This is what we came up with. Please, if I was there at the meetings, people did not want a water system because they didn't want to pay for their neighbor's water system. When you start talking about private property rights, when you have a central water system, one of the first things you end up doing is saying to the people who have a perfectly good well, is that you can't use your perfectly good well.
Well, that's not true. That's
Oh,
not
isn't it?
true. You don't have to
So you
abandon your
can opt
existing.
out of the water system.
Well, first of all, this has gone along so long that these monies spent on you know, my neighbor did another well here. He spent over $16,000. He went 250 feet. He got 12 gallons a minute by a bale test, which is not really accurate. But let's say it's half of that much. But he still gets 200 gallons per day.
Right.
So, you know, the investment, he just finally couldn't even water his little garden in his backyard with the hand dug well he had. But the problem is that every year you don't do it means that private money is, you know, individual monies are spent on something, because the guy who's got $36,000 in it, I asked him how many gallons per minute does he have? And he says he has 5 gallons an hour, because he doesn't know anything about owning a private well. I just came to the conclusion, a lot of people who move here, they came from water systems and water comes out of the tap. So I understand the money and I understand what's been spent, and everybody's, if you have a good well, why would I want to do it? But no water system would ever be created anywhere if you always went by the standard of, so, well, I have a good well and I don't need it. Because there's always somebody that says I got enough and I don't need anything else. But that's
Okay. First off, Steve, I'm only going to discuss this with you for a couple of minutes.
Well, that's
because
fine. No,
we do not make this decision. What you're asking us is to,
I know.
what you're asking us to do is to pass this on to the board of directors, correct?
Absolutely.
That we will do. But
Okay.
because you brought it up, I just want to tell you, when we were doing this in the 90s, we referred to it as the water wars. And they really were nasty. People did not want it. People did want it. And it was very contentious. We had large crowds that had a very strong opinion. So this is not something that that has not been looked at. Now, we chose to go this way because we felt that wasn't enough people to put it to a vote. You wanted to put it to a vote. I please ask you to take this to the board of directors and have them put it to a vote. Because I don't think there's enough votes.
Okay.
We finally decided this is not going to happen until somebody in the state of California says that to the hotels and the restaurants is you cannot serve that water. When they say you cannot serve that water,
absolutely, you're
that's
right
when we'll
about
do it.
that. I mean, you know, I think we're in total agreement about that there's a solution, and I'm not trying, I want to be part of that solution. And
Fine.
so I think that that day is coming. I mean, were you, Deb,
You're more
you guys,
optimistic than I am.
well, but have you looked at the Coastal Commission review of the town plan that was approved about 2 years ago?
Yes.
Well, the committee might want to see those papers, okay? Of the background, there was about 3 local hearings on that from the Coastal Commission, and they have a very large section of comment on water,
Yes.
okay? They really said that you can't have this situation because the Department of Water Resources cannot approve it, and neither could they. But what they did do is they got a report from Mike Kelly saying that, well, there might be 200 acre feet of water hiding around here somewhere, and thus there's groundwater available. And then they said, well, there's plentiful water available, which we know there's not. And so, I mean, I believe that report kind of smooth over the idea, and they could just go ahead and get this approval that had been outstanding for 10 years or something finished. And so I understand that too, but
Yeah.
but read those documents. It's a health issue and it's a safety issue, and those issues are beyond what our individuals with good wells and bad wells are going to be able to cover. And so therefore, let's get the money out of the state. They have money available. We need to see if it actually is available. If there's no money available, then we have no other alternatives. So, but we need to find that. I think we need to get the bottom line on that. And I don't think the public here, whether they like it or not, the state of California can step in on this. So anyway, there you go. I didn't mean to take up too much time.
So your suggestion is that we send on to the board of directors a a review of the public water system.
Well, yes, specifically, they need to look at the 1985 water study from the Department of Resources, because I don't believe anybody has seen it. I mean, I don't think any new board members have seen it. I mean, Maggie O'Rourke's definitely aware
I've
of
seen
it. You've seen it? Have you seen it?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, well, let's look at that and look at that section of the Coastal Commission hearings on the town plan. I think that is very instructive on what needs to happen based on what the state of California requirements are.
Okay.
I mean, you know, hey, if we say, well, give us a water system, I did talk to a couple of neighbors and I said, well, they said, well, we're having a hard time. They don't have any water, spending $250 to fill their tank. I said, well, would you pay for a water hookup and a system if you had water all the time? It's a pretty obvious answer. If you don't have water. Okay.
Steve,
All right, thank
I'm going to
you.
be on your side on this one, because if you will take the lead on this and talk to all the people who have wells, you'll hear what I heard at those meetings. But, you know, I was in favor of a water system and I lost.
Well, if it's economically feasible, I think you're going to have to let some people who have spent a lot of money for hydro studies and have a well that's servicing, okay, you're going to have to say, okay, you don't have to sign in now, but maybe over a 10-year period from now, or something's going to have to be done for them. I mean, you know, too much money was spent back in the hard days when you have to make a decision for the people who didn't want it.
Yep.
You know, it was tough to do and it didn't get, you know, and small town, now we're coming into the point where the health department rules on many things has changed a lot. Now, that water quality issue you talked about up there, I think that, you know, you would think that you could get better water from wells up there in that area. Like I heard Jim Jackson mentioned at the LAFCO hearing that they found a lot of water in some wells at the Cal Fire Station. Ed, do you know anything about that?
Oh, you do not want to ask that question.
Well, I just,
I had
maybe I just did.
guns come to the meeting.
How much
People-
water, or did they find anything?
They didn't find diddly, but they wouldn't even let us drill a test well.
Oh,
No,
well,
this was a real lesson in how much people like the town of Mendocino that live up in that area. I got a petition for it. If
oh,
you
I
wanna look
heard
up
about
things-
that.
Yes, yeah, go
Mhm.
read the names. They're nice people.
Well,
And they said, do not do it.
yeah,
I
know.
got
You
people
know,
that
you're
still
never-
don't like me.
whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting, and
And
it
I
is
did
never
that.
going to change. But
And I did
I
that. And
think
that's what
that,
I'm saying to
you know, we're at that
If you
point
want
in the
to take this
history.
on, this
Yeah, I
is a
think we're-
director's,
I know.
this is
we're
a board of directors concern.
I believe we're in the point of history where we got to find the state. The state needs to come in and help us more. And, you know, Mendocino is so valued for the county, not just for itself, but Anderson Valley, the economics of those tasting rooms and wineries in Anderson Valley were basically created from the people driving on Highway 128 to see Mendocino. And it's developed over a long time. So,
Well,
I mean, the support for this should be there.
no, it's not.
Well, I mean, not locally, but I'm
No.
saying money from the state.
The
That's-
state,
That's where I got to focus on.
Fort Bragg gets 100 times more money from the state of California than Mendocino does. We do not get money from the state of California.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I'm all for it. And this.
Well,
will
no,
be
I mean, I
passed
think
on-
I think there's money available for a system. At least we need to try to find it. Ted Williams, I had that conversation with me, thinks so. So let's go ahead and put that to the board of directors if you have what I was talking about, I guess.
Okie dokie, got it.
right,
Guys,
thanks.
just in case, and just, I'm not signing off. I'm just trying to tell you, I have a little problem. I must have unplugged my thing and it wasn't charging. So I'm down to 3%. So if I blank out on you, it's because of that. And I'll have to call it back in on my phone. So, Ryan, you got the information on that particular one?
Yeah, I think so. I took some.
Okay. So then I'm going to go down to the next.
Ed, we have a new district administrative assistant who we started to introduce at the beginning, Katie Bates.
Yes,
She's the one taking minutes here. She's
Yes.
the one you guys speak to when you call in, providing information. So I'm not taking as extensive notes as I would otherwise.
Is that why I see both your hands there?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to go off this list again. The next one is allowing for increased water extraction during winter to save for the drier summer months. I believe that is in the new ordinance, correct?
Correct.
Right. Does anybody have any comments on that particular one?
Well, I remember we talked about it last time, and I think we kind of went over it.
Okay. Okay, then we will pass that along as probably a solved problem. This discussion of the rainwater catchment system. That's really not groundwater, so I think we've already talked about that one. This is one that's going to be kind of difficult. This was the discussion of out of compliance district members and way to bring them into compliance. This was brought to us by a member of the community, and he basically was admitting that he is out of compliance, but he's staying within his limit. So I think the question that he brought up and that we should probably hand over to the board of directors is, what do you do with a member of the community that is staying within their water allotment, but they have more uses on the property than they're paying for? In other words, they're staying within the water laws, but not with the sewer laws. We're losing money on these people. So does anybody have any thoughts on that one?
Well, my thought would be bring them up to the current and present use on their wastewater charges, and then let the county know, and they can deal with it with the landowners on a permit. I mean, they can deal with the use. It's really their jurisdiction. But if we know, if they make it, if they're staying within their water allotment, then they're complying to that part of the groundwater management for the district. But they have to be brought up to the wastewater collection fees properly. And then by letting the county know, then they know that these people are operating what they are. So if the county needs to do anything, they will. And I mean, I think that's all that our district can do, is to make sure that people are paying their fair share and they're using their fair share in the allotment of water.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that?
I want to chime in here for a second. I don't have a thought about allotment per se, but I want to dial back a little bit to Ed, you're kind of dismissing rainwater catchment as a issue not to pass on to the board. But I just want to register my opinion that I think the idea of groundwater management is too limiting. I think that with current events and climate and all that, we're concerned with the water, period. And need to emphasize that looking into the future. And that I think the board's responsibility needs to expand to really discuss this issue fully. And if there's even a possibility of developing a community water storage system based on rain catchment, I think that's a valuable way to spend some time. I mean, we don't know, things are so unpredictable that I think all topics having to do with water need to be covered, need to be the responsibility of the board to do it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to be dismissive of that. I was simply saying we already talked about that. We're going to hand that over, but I didn't think we had anything else to say on that. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, we had talked about encouraging people to do that, but that it wasn't really something.
No. But I'm suggesting that it become part of a community initiative as well as groundwater search or finding money for a community water system that would include that as something that we could think about. Because I think the potential, even though the rain is limited, the potential of catching it in a, multi-thousand gallon way is there every season, even though they fluctuate.
Yeah, I think, Sam, that's where you get into a problem with the quality of the water, because you would become a surface water system, and Donna could probably back me up with this too. It's something that becomes much more expensive to try to become a water system that serves surface water. So separating that out for garden use definitely is something that, I think we talked about last time, that it was very beneficial, and especially coming off of roofs, storing that rainwater, would be, beneficial for, the overall less reliance on groundwater during the dry season. But I don't know that we'd want to get into that use of rainwater for part of the drinking water component.
Well, it's something to talk about and find out what the hurdles would be. Not to just push it to the bottom of the pile.
Yeah.
It seems the future, whatever water collection system you're going to have, is going to have a problem. And we, assuming that, we all agree that we need something for the future, then I don't think we should ignore anything, because I don't know about anything about this from a technical point of view, but Ed just described why, going out somewhere outside in some of the catchment areas, people object, you can't do it. So it seems to me that anything you try and do, there's a reason for not doing it. And I wouldn't want to throw out rainwater just because it's expensive, because it may turn out to be the only option that actually is workable. So I think, given that there's a problem in the future, you've got to, and there doesn't appear to be a solution, but that doesn't cost a lot of money, but there are solutions out there. So I think putting out all the potential solutions and asking them to be investigated is actually a good idea, rather than saying, no, we can't do that because it'll be too expensive, because you got to treat groundwater, or no, you can't do that because people are going to object to it violently. I mean, I think you got to go look at all these things, because I think there will be a problem in the future.
Yeah, this conversation is more about water supply than actual groundwater. I think that's the point that Alan and Sam were just making.
Right.
Good point. Good point.
May I say something? What the big issue here is that rainwater is not reliable. When you need the rainwater the most and you're going to catch something, is the years that you don't have rain. So, and I've looked at rainwater catchment in California here where we live, and in warmer climates, you might need a 30,000 gallon tank to get through 5 months worth of water. So I mean, say in Mendocino, you'd need a 15,000 gallon tank. I mean, it's half the size of your house. So, and then it will become stagnant in pond water. You could treat it. Yeah, I don't think you'd want to drink it. But again, what we're dealing with here is that nature doesn't give us a reliable supply of rainwater every year. It never has. So if you go and you get a deep water source, then it may have a groundwater holding capacity from year to year, which the Mendocino Headlands has no year-to-year holding capacity. That's what you're fighting. And I would like to make one quick statement here that I've kind of realized, that Mendocino is a very unique place where it has a sewer system without the public water system. And the issue is, if you have a break in your sewer system, it's going to get to private water source wells. And it's in part of the design of the sewer system that this is a serious issue. And I don't know if it's ever happened. The system's 50 years old. So the other reason you might want to consider strongly a community water system is for the safety and health of the water quality itself. Because if you do have a large sewer main break, it could contaminate the groundwater in that area for quite a while. So I just wanted to make that known. So that might be something you want to discuss with the board.
Mhm.
So
And-
noted.
And Sam and Alan, I apologize. I keep forgetting where I live now in Indiana, that the surface water is just, pretty much, a no-go. But I know out here in the West, it's a whole different story. So apologies. I agree.
No, none needed. Nope, there goes Ed. Ran out of his 3%.
Along 3% last.
He did pretty good on that 3%.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
I guess we'll wait for a minute.
Mhm. He's pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Fort Bragg is considered a surface water system, right, Donna? Or yeah, Ryan, you'd know too, for sure. Yeah. So,
We have a
and
combination of water, wells and surface water.
yeah, and that was the thing in the Midwest. Anytime if you had groundwater wells, you were a groundwater system, but anytime you'd have any type of combining, or even under the direct influence, they called it, you would become a surface water system, and the treatment definitely goes up when you become a surface water system, and the costs, along with that. But and the agency I worked with, we were always trying to help groundwater or surface water systems to convert to groundwater if they could. And the Midwest has a lot of water, groundwater too, so not a problem there.
You're bringing up something that I wanted to talk about from the papers that Ryan sent around. There was a section in one of them that talked about recharging the aquifer. I know that's probably maybe even a silly thing to think about when we don't have enough water, but still it's an issue. And I'm starting to connect that with, the program of sending water up to the high school, the quality of our filtration that does exist. And if, that could be brought to another stage where groundwater could be recharged from treated effluent. I mean, I don't know enough to talk about it intelligently, but we do send water up to the high school that's good enough for people to be around and use in landscape. And I wonder if that program could be looked at in more of a general sense.
Well, and that's what a lot of these, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, a lot of these aquifer systems that are of high or medium risk for depletion, that recharge of the aquifer is one of the major tools that they're looking at, like Ukiah, the Central Valley, like Fresno area and Bakersfield. Those are the tools that they're starting to look at, is, floodwaters during, rainy seasons, to find appropriate areas for those areas to infiltrate, the excess water to replenish the aquifer. So that's one of the things, one of the tools that they definitely are looking at, as they go forward with that.
Mhm.
I make a comment on that real quick. One of the issues about the Mendocino Headlands Aquifer is that it's not a basin. Even though one of the state studies, I think 82, talked about this basin. If you look at the State Water Ground Management Act, the Mendocino Service District is called a manager in that act, and whether or not they need to comply with that is still up in the air, I think, for interpretation. But there's no basin here, and an open aquifer, I can't find that anywhere in science. Okay, you're going to have to deal with a 60 to 80% loss runoff of groundwater into the ocean here. And there's no physical stop for that. So even recharging this water area here, which part of that water code section that they operate under says that they're authorized as a water management or water recharge district. But you're really in an impossible area to recharge, and because it doesn't store groundwater on that aquifer. Ask Mr. Maley. That's a question for the board. Does the Mendocino Headlands aquifer contain or store groundwater? What it does have is surface water, yearly runoff water. And so I think that that has to be understood by everybody, because I hired a hydrologist, and that's what we have. And that's why you have a difficult situation. Highly unusual for even this many people, residents, to be here under these conditions and not have a water system to supply a durable water supply. So yeah, recharge is probably not available really for this area.
Welcome back, Ed.
Thank you. Okay, where am I? Ta-da.
There you go. There you
Ed,
are.
did you get to hear, Ed, did you get to hear what I just said about the basin?
Yes,
Okay,
it
good.
leaks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. These are the cards that we were dealt.
Yes.
It is extremely unusual for a town, a city of this size in the 1800s, the 1900s, to not go back into the hills and get a water system. They didn't. So we have to deal with the cards we're dealt. And this was a individual shallow well system when I got here. And it's been a political hot potato ever since. So I am all in favor of taking this issue to the board of directors and seeing if they are interested in pursuing outside funds so that everybody gets water for a very low cost.
Now, you may not have the lowest cost, but it's less expensive than having no water.
Absolutely.
That's my opinion.
I totally agree with you. This is the idea that you're going to be able to continue getting water from Fort Bragg is a fool's game. It will stop.
Well, they must have cut off the water because there was a city council vote to sell excess water to the people that were trucking water to the town. Now,
yes,
that had to be shut off because they're in a crisis because, and one of the things about having a surface water system is it is also relying on rainwater. A deep source.
Now, I'm not going to let you say those kinds of things because all water systems anywhere in the United States, the world, depend on rain.
I do. Okay. Well, wait. Let me qualify. Let me finish that subject. When you go, and I owned a well drilling rig at one time. Okay. When you drill down 200 feet, you're in a different world. You have water that might have been in the ground 5 years. So there you go. So you have a cushion of time, dwell time, from when the rainfall fell in these mountains, and we do have sandstone, which is a good thing, stores a lot of water, and then it takes maybe 5 years to get to your well. So a good deep well has when it rains, it doesn't get more water, and when it doesn't rain, it doesn't have less water. That's a good deep water source, and that's really what you want to have. You know, I mean, and it's up there. That's what's powering those springs.
It's okay. I'm not going to argue about where the water comes from, but trust me, it rains. It all comes down to rain. It's just a matter of time and such like this. But
It is. It's a
we
matter of
will,
time.
as you requested, we will pass this on as a possible solution, groundwater management program. Because that's what we're supposed to be doing. Any other thoughts that I might have missed while I was switching iPads? Okay, so we talked about the community storage systems, and that basically is also with the similar to the groundwater catchment systems. Do we have any further on those issues? Yeah, okay, the other one that we've already done was the hydrological and geological studies, basic studies. We've already passed that on to them, and we have had some of that, and that's something that they're going to continue doing. Got that one. Okay, then I will go to the one that is my biggest concern, and we talked about it. It's not on his list, but it was in the minutes of, I think it was the minutes of 1/5/21 being last month. And this was the number 4 bullet point. And this one was talking about the switching of, the transferring of granted water allotment from shops, offices, and those types of commercial places, and switching them over to residential units. So I think I have passed that out to everybody last time in written form. Does anybody have any other questions on that? I think, again, this is something for the board of directors to look at, and it will change. It will demand some sort of a change of the ordinance for that.
And this was listed in the bullet points, change in use permits that should possibly trigger a hydrological study. So that's someone who wants to change their use from, say, retail to residential or overnight accommodation. Should that trigger a hydrological study?
Okay. Any other questions on thoughts? Not questions, but thoughts on that one? Okay, then we will hand that over to the board of directors also. Anything that I might have missed that was something of a concern from the committee members, or that they want to make sure that gets passed on?
I have a question for you, Ed. Are you, this issue that you're raising with the change of use,
Yes.
are you qualifying that by saying that if no hydrological study exists for that property, then
Yes. In other words, it was not a.
this was a grandfather? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes. Any other clarifications or thoughts on that? Did we miss anything that somebody wants to put up?
I guess just back to the last one. Sorry to keep, I'm just thinking about that. I mean, saying, should it trigger a hydrological study is kind of presenting a solution, whereas maybe what we want to present is the problem and say, or something else. Because there may be, somebody may have a bright idea about how else to control that change of use other than doing a hydrological study. I'd like it
That'd be
not
fine.
to be that restrictive, I think.
That'd be fine. That'd be
Good
fine.
idea.
I'm only trying to give, my concerns are increase of water use, which I believe would be there without a groundwater study. Now, if there's a groundwater study at the beginning, fine. We know that water's there. And if it's at the end, fine. We know that water's there. So that's all my solution was. It didn't mean to say nothing else, but yes.
Okay.
What else do we have? Okay, I think that as a personal, I would like to thank Steve Gomes for showing up and putting his 2 or 3 cents worth. I do appreciate it. I do actually look forward to not the water wars. I didn't like that at all, but working with someone who is trying to make the town of Mendocino better. I've always been in favor of that. So we'll put this up to the board, and I'm sure that you will help enlighten them as to how that would be beneficial. And I'll be right there with you.
Can I just make one statement? Does Ted Williams, does he get the every, day to day or month to month information from this, from your recommendations? And is he aware of everything that's going on here?
I always have that feeling that Ted Williams is aware of everything.
Well, I'm just wondering if he's part of the loop, but you never know. He's a supervisor. He's busy.
I don't know. I
Okay.
have talked to him about it a couple of times, but truthfully, he's got a lot of things going on. This is just one of many.
Very important, though.
I agree. I think that he will follow it probably more when it becomes part of the board of directors, when something from the board of directors triggers something that he might be able to help with. Our job is not to really find solutions. Our job is really to find inquiry places and what seems to be a problem. And if we happen to do a solution, fine.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Anything else, guys? Okay. My thought is we will meet maybe one more time to see if there's anything else that comes up, because this letter might trigger some other information. Agreed?
Yeah.
So this letter, this press release. And so then we will, at that point, if there's something else to discuss, we'll have another meeting at the first Tuesday. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. In the meantime, I thank you very much. I'm going to
Thank
go
you.
charge my other computer.
Good night.
Good night.
Hey,
Bye, all.
Bye.